starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Heather Turner, the Division F Director, and I am here with Beth Langdon, our Program Quality Director, and she's going to be talking about Train the Trainer, a TLI makeup session, kind of an overview. Just a couple of quick housekeeping things before we start. We are recording this and it will be available on the District 53 website, hopefully by tomorrow, if not sooner. And if you have questions, please ask them as they occur to you as we go through this session. So welcome, Beth, and please take it away.
Thank you, Heather. And as Heather said, when you have a question, feel free to ask the question and I'll answer to my best ability here. So thank you all for that came for the session, for the makeup session. And I know that a few of you joined me on December 3rd for the district TLE as well. And for the TLI, we usually have multiple sessions, but for TLE, we only have one district-sponsored training. Therefore, we ask that the area and division directors do the makeup training with their officers. So just to review, the TLI that we do in the summer is the Toastmaster Leadership Institute, and that is to tell the officers about their roles and what is expected throughout the year. Whereas the TLE is the Toastmaster Leadership Exchange. It's where the officers have the opportunity to talk about how they're doing in their role so far, what's been successful, what's not so successful, and where they need some help. So most of this for TLE is open discussion for everyone to have that open discussion and bounce ideas off of one another, because that's the best venue for them to learn and understand what other clubs are doing and how they can benefit from each other. So our agenda today is how to advertise your TLE, and then also how to obtain the DCP credit for the officers. We'll go over a few presentation topics, a few discussion topics at your TLE makeup session, and some upcoming events that I would like you to share with your officers when you do your training. Just as a reminder, the TLE starts from December 1st, which we're already past that, and it goes to February 28th. So all training needs to be completed by February 28th. And if you do remember, for the TLI, we had an extension, but I cannot guarantee that we will have an extension. So I ask that you schedule and complete all of your training by February 28th. If there are special circumstances where you're having problems doing that, please notify me right away so that we can talk about an extension. But again, I cannot guarantee that there will be an extension. So how to advertise your TLE training. One thing that I would suggest is, because we have till February 28th to do the training, you schedule it now. I have learned that members like to have advance notice. So the sooner that you can schedule the TLE training, the better for yourself as well as the members. So we're all familiar with the District 53 website. So you will go to the District 53 website. And then if you see on the left-hand side, you'll see Club Officer Training. See here? So click there. And then in order to schedule your training, you would click here, which then goes to this form that you need to fill out for each division and area. You'd fill in all of this information here, and then it will ask you for your registration code, which would go in this box down here. The registration code is TLI makeup. Joe Audette was so kind to help us set this up, and this is TLE training. However, it does say TLI, but please don't be confused with that. You will be getting the credit for the TLE. Okay, I'll stop there for a second. Does anyone have any questions?
Not currently, but we did have a question about questions. We are not unmuting any people. I'm sorry, not unmuting people because we have quite a few people on. If you do have a question and you are unfamiliar with the webinar interface, you can ask the questions to the right. Just type the questions in and we will read them and answer them. But there are not any questions currently.
Okay, thank you, Heather. One other question that you may be thinking about is how long does the TLE training have to be? And I talked with Toastmasters International, and they do not put a time limit on it. However, they ask that you make sure that the officers are properly trained and they're comfortable with the material that you've provided them. So if it's an hour, if it's 2 hours or 3 hours, they just suggest that you have the time with the officers that you feel that they need. So my suggestion for that, and we're going to go over some options of what you can do for the training, is a 2-hour training. Now there's some clubs that I know meet only for 1 hour, and you can do the training in 1 hour, but there is not a specific time limit for this. But again, in order to be successful, you want to make sure that the officers are properly trained. And we know that that can't be done in 15 or 30 minutes. So the minimum requirement that I would say is 1 hour. And again, that's just my opinion, speaking on behalf of the district, but Toastmasters International does not state a time that you have to do that for. The DCP credit. As I mentioned earlier, this is the second half of the training. So we have TLI, which once the officers complete that training, they get half a DCP point. And then when they complete TLE, they get the remaining point. So how do they get credit for that? What I ask you to do is send me an email, and you have my email here on the screen, and these slides will be shared on the district website. Send me the club name, the officer name, and officer role. I will also include, with Heather's help, I have a spreadsheet that might be more helpful, that you can actually have the officers check off their name as they come in the door, or maybe even when they leave, whatever works best for you. But again, if you just are training a few officers within the club, it might be easier for you just to send me the club name, officer name, and then the officer role. Either way, I'll provide the spreadsheet as well as if you just want to send me the email. As a reminder, for those of you that were not at the training on December 3rd, we do have a district incentive, just like we did for the TLI, and that is 7 officers trained. If you have 7 officers within a club trained, then you will receive a $25 gift certificate to Toastmasters International as well as a TLE ribbon. And just a note there, for the first half, the TLI, I have sent out all of the gift certificates and the ribbons for that incentive for TLI. Please double check with your officers if there's any problem with that, or if they did not receive it, please let me know right away, and I can hopefully rectify that for you. Presentation topics. As I mentioned earlier, this is really the officer's opportunity to tell you how they're doing, talk to you about their challenges and what they need help with. However, it is also an opportunity for the area and division directors to do a presentation to the officers to help them with some of the common items or ideas of what is needed for help. And one thing that I have found is navigating the Toastmasters International website. That can be very difficult and sometimes overwhelming. So something I would suggest during your training is to go step by step through the website, point out how you can go and log in as an officer to put in club education awards, also go over the DCP with them, show them their specific club and their points, how many points they have, how many members they have, and explain how that works, as well as the other resources that are available within Toastmasters International for the officers that, well, they've been an officer for 6 months, but you can also go on there and get the PowerPoint presentations to see what their roles are, just to remind them. You can give them that information as well. So there's a lot of things on the website that is beneficial to the officers, and I would just suggest to navigate through that. Now, we don't specifically have a PowerPoint presentation for that, but I would make sure that when you're within a facility, when you're doing the training, make sure that you have internet access, and then go step by step through the Toastmaster website and ask them what do they want to see and go through that. Also, I mentioned the DCP, which is Distinguished Club Program, which is very important for the club to show their strength and how well they're growing. So you just want to remind them of the DCP and what it means to show a healthy club and how they can achieve their goals and make sure that they actually do have goals for their club as well. So it's another option to talk about for presentation topics. Membership, open house. So an open house and a membership drive are two ways to increase membership. That's also something that you could do a presentation on just to tell the members what options they have. There is a district incentive as well. If they hold an open house and they bring in 2 members, they will receive a gift certificate to Toastmasters International. But recently at the TLE on December 3rd, Rich rolled out a new membership incentive as well, and that is if you bring in 6 new members between January 1st to March 31st, the club will receive a $100 gift certificate to Toastmasters International, as well as 1 ticket to the spring conference for 2017. Now, just as a reminder, that is only 1 ticket, so you might want to tell them they can be creative and raffle it within their club, raffle it with their officers, maybe with somebody that gets the most education awards. Just talk to them about being creative because it is just 1 ticket that the club would receive. As I mentioned, as a resource on the Toastmasters International website, you can review the officer roles as well, remind them of their roles that they learned about in the TLI, what is expected of them. And again, sometimes at this time, some of the officers are not as engaged, they're losing their momentum, and it's hard to keep them on track. So it might be something that you want to just remind them of their roles and remind all the other club officers what their roles are so they get more engaged as well. Another good topic is the officer success plan. Who will take over when they leave their office? It's always a good idea to have someone that they are working closely with during the year so that they can move into that position on July 1st. That doesn't always happen, but it's something that you can bring up now during the TLE training, and hopefully by June 30th, they will already have their slate of officers, and it'll be a smooth transition.
Okay, and we do have a couple of questions, Beth. Is one, and this is regarding the sign-up form that you were on last slide, is do we have to use this sign-up form to register our training?
You do not have to use the form, but I would highly encourage you to use the form, because even if you're going to send an email to your officers, there may be other officers that within a different division, different area, that would like to attend your training. And if they're not receiving the email from you, at least they have the option to look on the website and see where other trainings will be held. So it's not a requirement. You don't have to. I believe it's relatively easy to do. But if you don't feel comfortable, maybe you can give me a call and we can talk about that. But it's not a requirement, but I would highly recommend it.
Okay, and the next question is, officers that attended the December 3rd training, are these officers already recorded as attending TLE, or do the ADs have to send the names to you for these officers?
That has already been recorded and has been updated in Toastmasters International, so you do not have to send that information.
Okay, and then the next question in here is, how much is the TI gift certificate for 2 members from an open house?
Okay, that's a good question. We were trying to be creative, and it would be $53 for District 53. However, Toastmasters International does not make gift certificates $53, so it's actually $55.
Okay, and that looks like it for the time being.
Okay, so we'll move on. So again, we do not have presentations put together. However, this is something that you, as a division director and area directors, can put together yourselves and have these topics that you can put forward to the officers. And then just for what I did in the past, when I was the division director last year, I put together a team that we worked together, and we all had different sets of slides that we put together ourselves to present to the officers, and it worked out really well. And at the end, then we had an open session where we talked about what they've been successful with, what were their challenges, and what are some of the solutions as well. And that brings me to this, discussion topics, challenges, and solutions. In addition to doing a presentation, which again is not required, but I would highly recommend that because there are some of those topics that we just talked about that would be beneficial to the officers, which will also get them engaged and bring up conversation as well. And that's what TLE is about, like let them have their opportunity to speak. But here are just a few topics that you may come across just to get the audience to start talking. Most Toastmasters, of course, they want to be heard, they want to talk, so they will bring up their own challenges and solutions. One thing that I would suggest and warn everyone about is take the time to write down the challenges, but at some point put a stop to that and ask everyone to come up with solutions for those challenges, because I know that we can often have a lot of challenges within the roles of the officer roles, and we want to come up with a solution. We don't want to have all the challenges. We want to make sure that we come to some type of resolution and walk away feeling that we learned something from the training and something that we can go back to our clubs with and tell the other officers, the other members, these are the solutions, these are types of things that we're going to try. So we can just quickly go through these, but so how to deal with 2 little speaking slots. I'm sure if I could hear you guys, you'd be laughing because probably most of the time you don't have enough speakers, but that does happen sometimes where there's 2 little speaking slots. So it's something to consider if you would maybe increase your time of your meeting if you could. I know a lot of clubs also will withdraw from doing table topics just so they can get in more speeches as well. So just those are things to think about and to bring up to the members and think about other ways that you can fit in more people to speak. That's along the same lines of how to deal with not enough speakers. Encourage them, give them a phone call, because I have found that if you send out a broadcast email and ask people to take on roles or to do a speech, they often, I don't want to say ignore the email, but that's just not the way that they want to be asked. If you call them and talk with them and encourage them to come to the club meeting, that's just another way of getting them engaged. Another thing that I mentioned was how to deal with disengaged officers. I know that this time of year it gets very busy with the holidays and people just become disengaged. So just a simple phone call sometimes can bring those members back and the officers back and encourage them, talk to them also about the incentives and how they're progressing in their club. How to attract members in a community club. I know this is very difficult because sometimes in the corporate clubs it's part of people's review, but when in community clubs it's a little bit harder to attract members too, but just keeping them engaged and bringing them in and trying themes as well, that sometimes helps. Then as I mentioned, so we'll skip a few here, but discussing what hours are most beneficial for members to meet. If officers are not able to attend or if members are not attending, that can be a challenge as well. So make sure that the time is adequate for everyone that is meeting. So talk about that too as well. If they're having challenges with getting folks to the meeting, ask why. Is it the location? Is it they're just overwhelmed? What is it? Don't just assume that the members are not coming because they just don't want to be there. There could be some reason for that. So definitely find out what the root cause of that is. Maybe it could be time. Okay. Any questions on the discussion topics?
Okay, yes, we do. We have a couple formerly as well. How much is the, oh, I'm sorry, someone just deleted that. For the membership drive, is it only one incentive if they reach 6 new members, or do they get both incentives, 55 and 100?
That's also a great question. Yes, they do. They will get both of the incentives. They have the open house, but they would have to bring in 8 members because the 2 would be for the open house and bringing in 2 members and doing the open house. And then if you bring in 6 members, you would get the second incentive. So you'd have to bring in 8.
Okay. And the next question is, thank you for some, I love when people are a little messy with their spelling. thank you for the, and I'm assuming that they mean the suggestions for what you put up there, but is there a cheat sheet for information somewhere for each of these?
For these, I don't have one at this time, but I definitely could. I could make one for you, and I could get that posted for sure.
Okay, and whoever that was said thank you.
Okay.
And that's it for the time being.
And feel free, obviously, everyone has my email address and my phone number, so if anybody has any additional questions, they're more than welcome to call me at any time to ask these questions. Okay. When you are doing the training, I would suggest at the closing of your training to talk about upcoming events and what is happening within the district. A few things that we have here is Jan Jam, which is January 21st, and that was sent out in a district email last week, I believe it was. I should know the date, but I don't. And that's January 21st at the Manchester Church of Christ. That will be from 12 to 4. 12 to 1 will be lunch, and then we will be having several different sessions from 1 to 3. So I highly encourage you to send another message to your officers via email. Also tell them at the training. I have found that there's many different ways of communicating with the officers, and some folks like to look at the district website. Some will read their email. Some read the district messages that come from the district. Some read it from the area and division directors. So the more avenues that you can reach them, the better, in my opinion. And that's something that I've just learned, because some people will tell me, well, I didn't read the email, but they go to the district website and they see that. So please mention that and encourage everyone to come to that. We also have the contests coming up. And if you notice here, I have international and table topics. I have bolded table topics because earlier in the week, the website did say tall tales. That was an error. So please make sure that all of your officers know, all the club members know, that it's table topics, not tall tales. A few important dates here are the club contests need to be completed by March 18th, the area by April 1st, and division by April 15th. You will also be able to register your contests on the website, which we do not have that up as of now, but I will talk with Joe Adet as far as getting that posted, and you will go through the same process of uploading your contest as you would with your training. Then, of course, our Fun Spring Conference is May 20th, and that is at the St. Thomas Seminary in Bloomfield, Connecticut. And that is a long day. I don't know everyone on the call, but I hope that most of you have attended. If you have not attended the conferences, I would suggest this is something that you attend, as well as encouraging your officers and club members as well to attend.
Okay, Beth, and we have a question here. Hopefully I'm reading this right. I'm reading word for word so you understand it. Since TLE is facilitating the meeting with same role officer, is it better to post webinars on District 53 website to have role-specific officers? This is way rest of the area clubs make it more successful. I did ask to clarify that one a little bit more because I wasn't quite sure what she meant.
Okay. I think I need a bit more clarification on that as well.
Okay.
Maybe read it to me one more time.
Okay, since TLE is facilitating the meeting with same role officer, is it better to post webinars on the District 53 website to have role-specific officers? This way, rest of the area clubs make it more successful. I think this is meant to say that she's asking for webinars on specific topics for specific officers.
That may be possible, but one thing, if I'm hearing this correctly, Toastmasters International makes every district have the training in person. So as of right now, they don't allow you to do a webinar, teleconference, phone call. It has to be face-to-face training. So I think that is a great idea, and I'm hoping that Toastmasters International will soon recognize that, because we are a global organization, and even at my current company, we do webinars and we do telecons, and we train other than face-to-face. So I think it's something that Toastmasters should definitely work on. But as of right now, we have to do all of the training in person.
Okay, and we had a suggestion here that perhaps they meant, should the officer training be done for specific officer roles? So plan a training for presidents and VP and a different one that focuses on secretaries and treasurers. That way, instead of focusing on one club, it's focusing on the specific officers.
I see. You can do that if you like. We did something similar to that in December 3rd when we did a TLE, but we broke them up from the excuse me. However, we do have overlap in the roles within each club, and even though we have the guidelines for each role, we do, again, we have that overlap. And I think that this is the opportunity to bring several ideas back to club members. And if you segregate them, then not everyone is heard. Whereas if you're talking with maybe the president has an issue, but the VP of membership or education has a very similar problem, and then they can come to a solution because they're bouncing ideas off of each other by having that open discussion. So I would not discourage you from doing that type of training, but I just found that the TLE training is more beneficial when you have that open discussion with many different people.
Okay, and I just got a question or comment in that yes, that is what they meant. And the next question was, for the spring conference, do you get I can't read tonight, group rates for TM attendees at a specific hotel in Bloomfield?
A group rate for the hotel, was that the question?
Mm-hmm. For a specific hotel in Bloomfield.
Okay. At this time, I don't believe we do. I know that the seminary does offer their rooms. They're more like dorm rooms. I'm going to write that question down because I do not know the answer. My first inclination is to say no, that there's no group rate for a hotel nearby. But Heather, if you can write down that person's name, I will get back to you on that.
Absolutely. Okay. And that looks like it's it for that section right now.
Okay. Well, basically, I knew this would be relatively quick. I knew that we probably wouldn't need the whole 45 minutes, but this does conclude the topics that I had for this evening. So again, we can keep it open for another 5 minutes if people do have questions, or if you wanted me to go back to a specific slide to go over that again, we can do that.
Okay. And Beth, would you go back to the slide that had your email address on it?
Sure.
Oh, okay. So if anyone has any questions after the fact, or they occur to them after we're done with the webinar, please email Beth at pqd, that sounds like fun, at d53tm.org. And then there is a couple new questions. Would you show how to get to the registration page again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. So here you go to the District 53 Toastmasters district.org website. Then on the left-hand side, you can click on Club Officer Training. And then this would pop up. You click here. And then it goes to this page for logging in the information for your training. And as a reminder, there's the registration code for you.
Okay. And then another question about room rates. Do you have the room rates for the seminary?
I do not know them off of the top of my head, but that is another one I can follow up with.
Okay. Okay, again, and if anyone has questions for Beth, now is the time to ask or email her. Absolutely.
you think it'd be beneficial, I can share my phone number as well, Heather.
Absolutely.
Okay. Everybody get their pen ready. My phone number is 860-303-0259. So again, I accept email, phone calls, however you best communicate.
Someone just asked if you accepted shortwave radio call.
Sure.
I have a bit of a wise guy in the audience, apparently.
I can only imagine. Okay.
That looks like it's it for questions tonight, Beth.
Okay, I just have one comment before we close. I did send out an email that showed all of the officers that were trained at the TLE in December 3rd. So if you feel free to go back to that email, you can open up that Excel file and you can look through there and just double check that I did capture your officers, because I know there was a question earlier if they had to give that information to me, but no, that was captured there. So please feel free to take a look at that, and if you think that there's any errors, let me know and I can make sure it's updated.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Okay, and again, please email or call Beth if you have any questions after the fact. We did record this, and we will put it on the District 53 website. And Beth so helpfully offered to give us a list of questions and answers for that page that she mentioned. So we will be sending that out, I would think, within the next week or so.
Yes, absolutely. And I will give you the questions and answers, but just as a reminder, there could be other people that are more creative than me, which I'm sure there are, and they may also have some ideas to answer those questions. So I wouldn't hold me to what I'm saying, but definitely bring up those topics during the session. And again, add to it if you feel free after you have your session. If there's answers that were not on my sheet, let me know, because then it will be something that I can share with others as well.
Okay. And let's see, actually there was a suggestion, wonder if we can set up a wiki to capture those questions and answers and provide an ongoing resource. That's a great idea.
Okay. If somebody can teach me how to open up a wiki, then sure.
I am sure that we have a wonderful officer named Andrew who would be happy to help with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Very well.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. Well, thank you very much for joining, and I hope that everyone has a great holiday, and I will see most of you on January 7th at our upcoming DEC meeting.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and have a terrific night. Bye.
Thank you, Heather.